Hello, everybody. Welcome back for another episode, If Not Now When. Today, oh my goodness, I'm so excited. We get a chance to meet Martin Martinez, the one and the only today in our show. Wow. And if you don't know Martin, you really should. Martin today, he is entrepreneur in residence for Founder Institute, the world's most proven network to turn idea into startup, turn startup into global business. Since 2009, I have helped 5,500 companies across the world, 6 continents. Wow, what an impact. Today, he's also the host and producer for online show Global Startup Report and founder Showcase Series. As a serious entrepreneur, Martin found and exited 3 businesses, produced a high-profile event across the country in multiple industries. And today, Martin is really passionate about supporting founders as an advisor, as well as serving on the advisory board for many entrepreneurship programs, as well as the world-leading festival and conference such as South by Southwest. With that, everybody, I am so beyond excited. And thank you so much, Martin, for joining us. And welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Wen. You give me such a warm welcome. I'm just happy to be here. You're making me blush.
That's just who you are. And really, we are just super honored. So, Martin, tell us, you have come a long way. How does your journey begin?
Mm, wow, that's a good question. It's a good way to start things, I suppose, right? So I guess I like to call myself a serial entrepreneur. I didn't really know what that word meant when I was younger, but I guess that's what I was doing back then. I had a small business in high school. I was doing like landscaping and pool cleaning in the summers, and working with my dad. I couldn't even drive a car yet. He was driving me around to job sites. But that was kind of my first taste of trying to start a business and make
Wow.
earning money, earning your own things. In college, I went to the University of Texas, and this was around the same time. It was the exact same time as all of us were getting on the Facebook.com, as it was called back then. And while working in bars, throughout Austin, Austin's really known for the nightlife scene. I was working in those. I wasn't even old enough to drink yet, but I was working there. I was creating social media profiles for these businesses, and started to actually turn that into another business. And this was, before social media marketing tools were a thing, or even the majority of people were using social networking platforms as they were being called back then. So I was testing things out, and I was being called crazy a lot, but I was making money. So I'd be showing people, I'm like, hey, I'm actually making a living out of this. So, you know, that's not great feedback. This is working. So inevitably, I got through that business, and got a job at Facebook because I ended up selling off a lot of those properties to other independent managers, and even back to some of the businesses themselves. And that's really what got me into technology. Was working at Facebook as an early employee, which
Mhm.
really just sent me into a whole new world of what it meant to be a part of startups,
Mhm.
and what some of the most prolific entrepreneurs in history can do. So just being a part of that
Mhm.
energy and that environment right out of college was very inspiring.
Mhm.
I spent some time at Google after that, and then with probably more money than any 20 something should ever have, I went and started another business, and this one was going to be more of a tech startup, but um, you know the follies of being young and thinking everything at that time. We learned a lot, and my team learned a lot. I spent like every dime I had, and there was just a lot of things that we could have done better, things that we just didn't do at all, things that we quite frankly did wrong. And um, and we just didn't have a I just didn't have a support network of other entrepreneurs, of
Mhm.
mentors and community to really kind of guide you and help you avoid those pitfalls. And this
Mhm.
was in 2013 at the time, so almost 10 years ago now.
Mhm.
I jumped at once that was done, I jumped back into events. I'm an event producer by trade. I love putting together gatherings. I'm actually here in Dallas right now. We're hosting an event for Founder Institute, later this evening. And again, it's just something I just love doing. Kind of runs in
Mhm.
my family as well. Like my mother and like have had relatives that love to put on events. They do that. They've done that professionally over their careers. So got into that. I've always been involved with South by Southwest. Back when I was working in bars, just working those weeks to actually putting those events on. Sometimes throughout those years, and then it wasn't until about 2016 where I was traveling the country and just figuring out. I was thinking of even moving out of Texas at the time, and I found sitting in a co-working space, an event that was hosted by the Founder Institute, and I thought that was really great. I was just telling myself. I remember telling myself then, listening to it in presentation on the organization, on wow, I wish I had that. I wish I knew about it.
Mhm.
They had started in a classroom at Stanford in 2009. Currently we're in over 200 cities in 100 countries around the world, but we weren't in Texas. I had never heard of it. I didn't even know these programs existed that could have potentially helped me 3 years before.
Mhm.
But that was hindsight. When I didn't think too much of it. I just thought it was cool.
Mhm.
And I find myself on the other side of the country. It was in San Francisco, downtown San Francisco, that event, and I found myself in Boston a month later and visiting a client, and lo and behold, in their local co-working space was a Founder Institute event. And now I'm more or less kind of mad when because I and now it's everywhere that I'm going. It's like almost followed me around, but I had still never heard of it. So I spent some more time with the team that was running the Boston program. They still do, by the way. They're great. They're great people, good friends, and I was just learning kind of really how it works. What does it
Mhm.
mean to actually be a part of the community, even potentially leading one? But this was still 2016. I didn't think too much of it because I was still traveling a lot more, had work I was doing, and I was launching another business, an events company, that I thought was going to be what I was going to be doing for a good amount of time. And I had, we actually just new things are happening this year, so that's transitioning out. But it wasn't until the following year, right after South by Southwest in 2017, like right around now, almost to the day, when 5 years ago, where uh, I got reconnected with the team in Silicon Valley. They've been kind of following me. We're all connected on LinkedIn, so we were following each other's stuff. And they approached me with the opportunity to launch the Founder Institute in Austin at the time,
Mhm.
just only in Austin. They've been trying to get into that city since 2012. And would I be interested in helping kind of lead those efforts? So naturally, I say, how can I help? And it involved hosting a lot of events, which again, I think that was a reason why they reached out to me. It's something that we do well, something I've always done well, and I love to do. But also, I had a lot of ties in startups, had my own entrepreneurial experience that
Mhm.
I resonated with the organization on, and I had a lot of friends and colleagues that were in the startup ecosystem in Austin at the time. It's since
Mhm.
grown a lot, but I definitely had a small group that I started to build a community around.
Mhm.
We fast forward 5 years. I started just being just a local co-director for that very first program, and now I lead all of our efforts in Texas, where we have a chapter here in Dallas, as I mentioned. While I'm up here, we're in Houston as well. We all work together under this Founder Institute Texas initiative now, where we've helped about 100 entrepreneurs over the last 5 years launch their businesses. And I know you know a few of them. I know you've met a few of them. So that's been really rewarding to watch. But also, it's not just something that was going to make a job for me. It was, we're creating opportunities for other people. We're connecting people with smart individuals, resources, and other communities that are allowing them to really turn the idea that they came to us with into a scalable, enduring company. And
Mhm.
that's been really amazing to watch. So, as I mentioned, over the past 5 years, we've helped about 100 companies launch just in Texas alone. I serve as executive director for our Texas programs, and as you mentioned a little bit earlier, I've joined our headquarters over the summer of last year as our entrepreneur in residence. So it gives me a little bit more perspective. I get to, in with respect to how we operate around the world now. I
Mhm.
get to work with amazing community leaders and mentors and founders from every chapter globally, and really kind of follow their journey and really start to think, how are other ecosystems developing startups? Is there things that we can apply maybe to Texas or even the regional programs that could make everything better? And of course, bringing in those brilliant people from all other parts of the world also contribute to what we're doing in Texas. So definitely not stopping. There's still a lot more to go, but I guess to answer that question, that's kind of where the journey began, and that's where it is now.
Wow, what a journey, Martin, and thank you so much for unpacking it for all of us. And I'm curious, I do want to circle back for Founder Institute with, there's so many exciting events coming today and this summer, but I do want to circle back to your journey. I'm curious, do you always know you're going to be entrepreneurs? Because you mentioned when you have your first business when you were in high school, you can't even drive yet. What drive that, and were you always that way?
Maybe I don't know. I guess I just have um, a fundamental fear of being mediocre. Mediocrity in
Tell us
general
more. Where does it come
is
from?
is terrifying. I don't know. I really don't know. Maybe it's just I never wanted to do the things that everybody else did. When I saw opportunity, things that I could find, not
Mhm,
only have fun doing, but get paid to do it,
mhm,
that was something worth doing versus just, being an accountant or a lawyer, which all respect to my accountant and to my lawyer, but I just didn't want to do that, right?
mhm,
And I just didn't see any joy in it. So I found joy in challenging myself, even when it might be
mhm,
painful. It's almost in a twisted sense, just knowing that sacrifice and these things would pay off later. I saw an end, and the means would justify that in a way that would be rewarding, which would also
mhm,
give you experience. But inevitably, too, you could take that experience and show other people what not to do, and bring them with you on that. So um, it's a great way. It's something to think about for sure. I I didn't know what it was called, but apparently it is something that I've always done. So it's a little bit of nature and certainly a lot of
mhm,
nurture along the way.
mm. Were you ever afraid, Martin? Because you are someone strike me as opportunist. You see the
Mm.
opportunity to create innovation, to be better at whatever the situation is, you jump in, you make it happen. And that might have not been exist before. And I think that is the definition of entrepreneur that you are. But were you ever afraid?
Mm. I guess that's relative. I mean, there's always something to be, I guess, up at night thinking about. Maybe it's not like fear, as I mentioned. Maybe it's that fear of mediocrity that might drive me to a certain extent. But there's, I think there's just always things that you have in your mind that might be giving you worry or anxiety. That certainly can provide motivation. Um, when you don't have too much control of it, it might be debilitating.
Mhm,
So I mean, I'm human like anybody else. So those things definitely can come to pass, and it's just a matter of like acknowledging it, recognizing it,
mhm,
and doing things, actionable things, help you kind of persevere through those. But fortunately, what's great is and what we've done with like Founder Institute is we
mhm,
have a support network. It's like
mhm,
is doing this by yourself is hard enough. It's one of the starting businesses are one of the hardest things you can do in general. And so if you're doing this alone and you also don't have a support network of people that are giving you, advice and guidance, and you're only hearing like you're crazy or don't do it, that's not the best environment to be in. And I've been in parts of my life where that's all I had. And these are, from people that love me, but they just didn't get the journey.
mhm,
With the community of entrepreneurs and people that believe in startups and want to help them either through mentoring or investing or more, you get less of that. There are people that you can pick up the phone and talk to because they get where you're at. They've been there. You might
mhm,
have done that for them the week before at like 3 o'clock in the morning when they woke up
mhm,
in a cold sweat. And our founders that go through our program do that for each other too. So
mhm.
it's more manageable, certainly. It's uh, I'm not saying it's easier, but you have people around you that can help you get through it, and that's what you need. You need
Mhm.
community because you can't build this by yourself. You can't build anything by yourself that's meaningful, in my opinion.
Mm. This quote I heard said that if you want to go fast, you go alone. You want to
Mm,
go further, you go together.
I
And then
love that.
relating is a great point that you mentioned about community piece. And Martin, you also mentioned earlier that, when you are in your own journey, there's not much of a network for yourself at the time. And oftentimes
Hmm.
people even say you are crazy or think you are not realistic or whatever that is. I'm
Hmm.
curious, how do you always have a courage to stay true to who you are?
I mean, it's just you got some good questions today, Wen. I knew that was going to be the case today. Now, so yes, the how do I again? It's kind of like reminding yourself, almost from an affirmative basis, just telling yourself this is why, reminding yourself kind of why you did what you're doing, focusing again on what drives you because of that. And especially for like entrepreneurs in general, and myself included, is what's the problem you're trying to solve? You got to remind yourself of like what that is and why it's
Mhm,
meaningful, why it matters. So that's what pushes me, certainly.
mhm,
And again, without this community of ours, it'd be a lot harder. I already know that for sure.
mhm,
And but what's great about this community of ours too is that it's not just for me; it's for everybody around us. We're all here to support each other.
mhm,
And yeah, you're right. You can definitely try and do it alone. You might go faster, but you might crash just as fast too when because you don't you're going you're going
mhm,
at a speed that's unmanageable, untenable, not sustainable for your just general well-being as a human.
mhm,
Yeah, there's certainly people that do that, and there's plenty of stories about how that ends.
mhm.
Some of those are turned into TV shows now. So if that's what you want, you can totally do that, but it doesn't end well. None of those TV shows end well for any of those people. But yeah.
And Martin, today a lot of founders, right, follow their heart and just go after start a business they always wanted. But inevitably, like you mentioned, this journey is not easy. And I'm curious, Martin, for your own experiences with three businesses, what was the most challenging part when you're in it? Or what is the most maybe the biggest mistake you ever made?
Um, well, I think with one of them, with one of my last companies, it was a tech platform. Basically it was a customer relationship like management software, CRM,
Mm-hmm.
but for event production, and that's what we were building. But what we didn't do, or what we should have done more, was actually just get feedback from the people that we knew were going to use it. We just didn't talk to enough people, and I see that a lot with entrepreneurs in general. And that's certainly something that we did that we didn't do well. And if I want to be frank, we did wrong. We had these basic assumptions: if you build it, they will come. But what we built wasn't something that they were really going to use effectively to the way we thought it. But more importantly, was it something they were going to be willing to pay for consistently?
Mm-hmm.
And I see that happen for so many entrepreneurs every day now when I'm having conversations, is that they just assume, like, if I need it, everybody needs it. If I think it's worth something, everybody's going to think it's worth something. They're going to give me tons of money for it. But that's
Mm-hmm.
not the case. You need to validate, and you have to go back to what the problem you're trying to solve is. The product's irrelevant, quite honestly. It's is this problem big enough for a large enough amount of people? And if so, are people willing to pay money to solve that problem? And if that's the case, what other things are out there that they're using and paying money for to try to solve? And if that's the case too, and those things aren't still working, then that's probably the thing you should build, the thing
Mm-hmm.
that still nobody's doing well,
Mm-hmm.
and charging money for people to use it. And now
Mm-hmm.
you got yourself a business that's actually a business. It's not just an
Mm-hmm.
idea that you think is cool, or it's going to make you famous. You're actually solving problems for people and making a living doing it. Maybe not just for yourself, even maybe for a lot of people. Maybe you're fundamentally shifting how people approach the problem,
Mm-hmm.
or even eliminate it altogether. And you see that, with great leaps of technology in general, but
Mm-hmm.
but all across, business. You can see that happen. But at the end of the day, if you don't know the problem, if you're not dedicated to the problem and willing to learn from people who deal with that problem every day, why it is the way
Mm-hmm.
it is, then you're setting yourself up for failure.
Mm. I love the point, Martin. I love that you said the product, the software, the app, whatever you're building is not as important compared to what problem you are solving. And I
Mhm.
love that you speak for the why. And I think my personal belief is what doesn't matter unless we understand there's a why. And I think you elaborate so well. So, in that point, Martin, how would you advise entrepreneur or aspiring entrepreneurs to really make sure find the product market fit and really testing that problem, make sure this is actually a valid or a sizable market to go after? What would you say to her or him?
Yeah, so again, to even get to that product market fit, you have to do a lot of discovery. You have to talk to hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of people to get to that point. But you
Mm,
also have to know what everything else is out there trying to solve that same problem, or maybe parts of the problem. And I see that struggle a lot because you get to a point, or you think about product market fit, you don't even really know what it means yet, because you don't know everything that you need to know about the market itself and the problem that needs to be solved.
mm,
So what I typically advise founders, and it's not something you can do on day one. It takes years to really build. If you're really passionate about the problem, that you become one of the foremost like leading experts on why it's a problem. Like what I love of like when I get to work with entrepreneurs that are very passionate about those things, every time I talk to them, they're teaching me something new about
mm,
why it's a problem or what people are doing, how they're behaving to the solution that they've created to solve the problem. Like
mm,
it's almost like I don't have children. I don't know if you have children, but like I always think of it like if you're picking like your third grader up from school and they just learned about dinosaurs and they just won't shut up about dinosaurs because they're so excited about it. Like that's the energy I'm looking for because you're
mm,
just so insanely passionate about it. You just
mm,
can't wait to tell everybody what you learned and
mm,
why it matters, and you do that every day.
mm,
So once you really kind of get into that mode, it may not be for everybody, but
mm,
this is kind of the personality profile that I've found and identified that really shows me that they're willing to do what it
mm,
takes to turn something into into a business that's going to be meaningful, that's worthy of getting venture capital. That it's a great indicator. It's a great
mm,
signal to me that this is somebody that's really serious and committed to doing this. And
mm,
um, so, that's something I would say is because you're constantly learning and asking and taking in all of this information and learning and applying it very quickly, you'll know so much more about the market. The product itself will fit exactly where it needs to be based on you becoming that expert.
mm,
But again, it's a very difficult thing to ask of people, and it takes a certain level of commitment that I think founder entrepreneurs, like founders that really want to start something, should commit to.
mm,
It's because it's not something that's going to happen overnight.
mm,
It takes 5 to 10 years for something to really get to a
mm,
position where it's really impactful and meaningful. I run into too many founders who may have an idea and immediately they want like an introduction to some well-known investors so that they can become best friends and they can do the private jets and be in the movies. Like it just doesn't work that way. It just doesn't. It
mm,
isn't. That's not what this world is. And I have very bad news for people who think that's the case and when they come to us and expect that. That's just not
mm,
how it works. Um, and if it does, and you heard those stories probably aren't true.
mm,
And those people are either very privileged or very lucky, but you can't
mm,
apply yourself to those people. You can't compare yourself to those outlier scenarios.
mm,
You have to really fundamentally understand and appreciate and be committed
mm,
to the why and the who you're
mm.
doing it for.
I love that. The why and the who. With that, Martin, today you met entrepreneurs from all over the world. You probably have so many conversation and the dialogue regarding entrepreneurship. And I'm curious, Martin, in your opinion, what are the biggest maybe misconsumption or misunderstanding about startup world that oftentimes founders don't know until they actually jump in? Is there one or two things will come to
Um,
your mind?
yeah, and again, early on, it's just like I run into a lot of entrepreneurs, and if I'm like building an archetype out, these are probably more technical, they're product focused kind of people.
Mm,
And another archetype is kind of they come from maybe like academia or some high level profession, PhDs, or they're just not in business in general, which is fine. A lot of most entrepreneurs don't have that. Um, Either the technical experience or even the business acumen early on. They learn it on the way. But when I do run into those kind of personality types, they two things. One, just like I said, they think it's like an overnight thing. They're
mm,
going to be super successful immediately, and it's like and they're famous and they get to go to all the parties and hang out with all the billionaires. And it's not like that at all. But also, I run into a lot of those same kinds of entrepreneurs who rest too much on their IP, their intellectual property. They're like, oh, I have a patent, so now I'm going to be rich. Like, that doesn't matter either. You can spend, I mean, it is important, especially if you're doing like hardware or some really great proprietary things. It's
Mhm.
great to have it,
Mhm.
but they hold on to it like that's the holy grail, and
Mhm.
that's what's going to make them millions and millions of dollars. And that's not the case. It's the
Mhm.
execution of the process, or whatever that IP really shows, and up to you to really be committed to um, show why that's worthy of patent. They just spend a
Mhm.
lot of money on patents, and they just think, oh, we have all these patents, I'm going to go to investors, I'm going to become a millionaire. And that's just not how it works.
Mhm.
So uh, so in doing so, they're very scared of talking about their idea to anybody, and they're defeating
Mhm.
the first rule of building a business, which is gather, feedback, understand, is this a problem we're solving? They do it the opposite way. They build a solution for a problem that probably doesn't exist, or if it does exist, it's probably not a problem that people are willing to pay for. So they've
Mhm.
just wasted a ton of money on that. They
Mhm.
engage again. So I'm not saying that I getting your patents is the incorrect move. It's certainly a necessary thing, especially if you're
Mhm.
in hardware.
Mhm.
Um, but it's very difficult to patent software,
Mhm.
and if you're scared about talking about your idea because you think people are going to steal it, then it tells me it's probably not a good idea or a unique idea. If, say, you and me on this call right now, you tell me an idea, and like, me, I'm going to quit my job as executive director for Founder Institute now just because you told me this, and I'm going to go spend the next 60 hours a week every week for the next 5 years to copy it and beat you to market. That's just unrealistic. uh, and it's a common fallacy I see that I have to fundamentally break down with a lot of entrepreneurs at the very beginning.
Mhm.
And then the second piece is that they think, again, it's going to happen overnight. This is a long slog. It can take a decade to become an overnight success.
Mhm.
As I tell them that all the time. There's a lot of stuff that no one will ever see or appreciate,
Mhm.
that you as a founder will have to deal with, to finally have those moments of like, wow, this is why we do what we do.
Mhm.
And this is what the journey has brought us to. And this is a reminder of why we do what we do. All of that
Mhm.
was worth it. All that sacrifice was worth it.
Mhm.
So um, another thing is, like, again, the costs of doing business early on.
Mhm.
People forget that you need to incorporate a business. And in many cases they incorporate the business. Speaking strictly just from the United States on the legal side, I'm
Mhm.
not a lawyer by any means, but if you're looking to start a business that inevitably will want to raise venture capital, there's certain legal structures and business preferred ways to incorporate your business you should. And I'll run into entrepreneurs who think, oh, I incorporate like a small business because I have a small business attorney and a CPA that tell me this is how I do it, but then we have to redo all of that because they got bad advice.
Mhm.
Then those might be great small business attorneys and accountants, but they don't understand startups.
Mhm.
So they're already off on the wrong foot because they've engaged the wrong kind of advisors, for the wrong kind of company,
Mhm.
and they've already kind of shot themselves in the foot, and then it's very expensive to recorrect that.
Mhm.
It can be. So it's a mix of those things. I know I didn't have like a definite answer, but those are patterns I normally encounter,
Mhm.
where people are kind of making the putting the wrong foot forward, right off the bat.
No, thank you. The top three mistakes founders should avoid. That's really valuable. So thank you.
Mhm.
So now, Martin, I want to circle back to you.
Mm.
Why Founder Institute? Why do you want to be part of this incredible network? Tell us more.
In short, I just don't want people to make the same mistakes I did.
Mm,
Like I just didn't have this community. I didn't have it. I wish I did.
mhm,
If I could recruit me from 10 years ago to take this program, I'd pay for all of his time to go through it because I know it'd be worth it and he
mhm,
would do it.
mhm,
So I'm always looking for people like that too,
mhm,
that are going to commit, who do believe in what they're trying to achieve, that it matters, and the people that they're trying to serve need it
mhm,
for the right reason. So, it's also a sense of community. That's why I do this, and again, it's very rewarding. We've had We've had, dozens of founders raise a lot of money at this point around the world. We've had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds raise millions and millions of dollars. But
Mhm.
in Texas specifically, founders that I've had a chance, the privilege to work with directly, where they came to me with just the idea in their head, and then in 2 years' time, they're pacing for $1 million in revenue from something that they just had in their head. It's
Mhm.
it's a beautiful, it's a magical thing to watch. It's inspiring, and I always knew early on in my as I was going through college and starting to build my career, that I just wanted to surround myself with brilliant people
Mhm.
because the conversations are great. These are builders. These are people that are creative and experienced in all variety of different ways, and which always makes the conversations great. Always makes the company interesting. So that's always just been a goal, is to try and surround yourself with brilliant people and always try to learn from those people and continue to have brilliant conversations every single hour of the day.
I love that. Always about having a good time, right?
Mm,
And Martin, I love that you really want to share what you want to others. You want that network, that support, that community, and today, therefore, you are head of this incredible network to supporting entrepreneur globally and in Texas to really build their dream business. It's amazing. And
mm.
Martin, I'm curious. You speak about the past journey. I'm curious if this is just hypothetically, if we do have a magic wand, if we can go back any time we want. I'm curious, would you change anything in your path, given now you
Uh,
know who you are?
well, again, if I knew this program existed 10 years ago when I was starting that company back then, I would have taken it. And that's the only thing that I wouldn't say keeps me up at night, but it definitely makes me curious. To use that word on what might have been different. Maybe we would have lasted a little bit longer. Maybe we would have raised a little bit more money. We did raise a little bit of money, but it wasn't a lot. It wasn't enough to keep us going for a sustained
Mhm,
amount of time. But we did get over that hump, which a lot of companies never even get that opportunity.
mhm,
Though, though it would have been interesting to see had we had maybe had corrected some of those early missteps or avoided those missteps altogether by spending a little bit more time validating,
mhm.
understanding that problem that the customer is dealing with, or the customer that we assumed was going to be paying for it was dealing with. We might have been able to execute a little bit better. But outside of it, if a mistake's only a mistake if you don't learn from it.
Mhm.
Everything else just turns into a lesson.
Was it was it hard to move on from those at the time challenges or mistake at the
Uh,
time?
oh, I mean, they're always going to be.
Mhm,
Always you have to check your ego about those. But again, it's time helps you. Time helps with the healing, of course, and it allows you greater reflection. You know,
mhm,
it may feel like the worst thing in the world, and
mhm,
for many entrepreneurs, it can feel that way if they make a mistake, or if they have to shut down the business.
mhm,
But it's not the end of the world by any means. But also, again, as long as you're able to reflect and understand, you know what um, what those lessons that came from it are, and apply them in a way that's going to make you better,
mhm,
then those things were worth happening. It allows you to grow. And if you're not growing, then you're not doing anything productive. In my opinion, you're dying. Quite honestly, some self-help person probably said that. If you're not growing, you're dying. But you got to be applying those things, and
mhm,
that's where, and failure is part of the game for being an entrepreneur. Like, you need to fail. That's the only way you're ever going to learn. You have to fail very quickly too, and understand and apply that knowledge from it. If you're not failing, then you're not actually pushing yourself and actually
mhm,
taking out of your comfort zone. Or if anything, you're probably not even getting enough feedback. You need
mhm,
feedback. You need competing ideas. What I love about our organization is that I'll get very brilliant people from very different, perspectives and industries working
mhm,
with our founders, and they may offer completely opposite feedback and
mhm,
advice.
mhm,
But it's up to the founder to understand why they're giving that competing feedback, and then they have to take that information and apply it in the best possible way for the betterment of the business they're trying to build. But
mhm,
without that feedback, negative or otherwise, they can't make the best informed decision.
mhm,
So failure is necessary. And listening to feedback or advice that may go counter to your assumptions
mhm.
is necessary too, so that you can make the best informed decision for the sake of your company. and yourself in many ways.
I enjoy that. Martin, in Chinese, what is proverb said, life is like little boat in a river. Either you're moving forward or you're moving backwards. So I love the way you said about it. Probably not like either you learn or you die. Not that dramatic, but more like
Yeah, yeah,
you move forward in your life with the learning, with all the new perspective you gain from those experiences.
absolutely.
Amazing. So, Martin, now I'm curious. You have come a long way. Today, what inspired you? What made you happy, and what's next for you?
I mean, doing this, bringing people together. I've been an event producer, pretty much my whole life, as I've mentioned. Again, I just love bringing people together. So starting to be able to do these again, actually seeing people like in person has been really rewarding. Again, we hosted an event in Austin a couple weeks back for the first
Mm,
time this year. It's been a very interesting 2 years for all of us, right?
mhm,
And so finally be able to get back out there and seeing
mhm,
people and fostering those connections. There's only
mhm,
so much. I love these formats. I love the virtual formats, but like once we shut the laptop, we don't get to have that banter or
mhm,
all of the serendipity connections that happen normally when you're hosting events or these kind of conversations. So those coming back, it's really nice. It always feels good
mhm,
to kind of have those and meet more people like organically because of it.
mhm,
So that's been great. Looking forward, there's just more. We have more to do.
mhm,
There's some projects I'm working on. We're not ready to share just yet here with Founder Institute, but I'm very excited about that are gonna, help continue to build and grow the startups that are coming through our program in a
mhm,
very meaningful way at a larger and a scalable way,
mhm,
and also just the people I've yet to meet that are coming
mhm,
in. We're currently recruiting for our summer programs for Texas.
mhm,
I always meet some brilliant people. And a lot of these people end up becoming very close friends. Because they put themselves through this, they make themselves vulnerable, definitely push themselves out of their comfort zones because they believe in what they're trying to do and that it matters. And those are the people that we want to surround ourselves with. We want those hungry individuals, the ones
mhm,
that are going to do, what's not uncommon, or what is, yeah, what's uncommon, and then also challenge that status quo,
mhm.
and try to be bold. That also probably are terrified of mediocrity like myself. Yeah.
I love that. Martin, I see you are such a people leader. You're such a community builder. And I think you have such a heart to support just incredible people doing their amazing thing and being the liaison to helping them to join a better and bigger world, which is
Mm,
so inspiring.
yeah. Well, and I appreciate you having me on this. This has been really fun.
I do have two last questions for you, Martin. One
Hmm.
is, Martin, today I'm curious, is there what is one thing that you wish people know about you, but oftentimes people don't?
Um, Actually, more shy than I come on.
Really?
Probably. Hmm. Hmm. Like, I get it's easier for me when I'm hosting my events because I don't spend too much time with any given person. I have to go meet everybody. I'm always just kind of running around in circles. So I always have like a set cutoff time where I'm not, there doing one specific thing all the time. So I guess I'd be more characterized as an ambivert. So it's like somewhere in the middle, not fully extroverted, but not totally like closed up.
Mm,
I was very shy when I was little. It's not that
mhm,
I didn't want to go hang out and talk to people. It's just I was scared about what was that initial engagement? How was that going to work?
mm.
That first hello and all that kind of stuff. Those formalities in the beginning of those things. This is when I was a little boy. But that might be something. Yeah,
Wow.
something you heard here first.
I would not expect that, Martin. Wow. Okay, my last question to you is, Martin, today you had not only your own
Mm,
entrepreneur journey, but as well as supporting founder globally and Texas launching the business. What a piece of advice, one or two that you want to share with, with them regarding the journey? Maybe
yeah.
one of the biggest mistake or
Yeah.
things that they can avoid.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I actually get to ask this question a lot on my show as well.
Hmm.
If there was one piece of advice you'd give to an entrepreneur before they even start, what would it be?
Hmm.
And the one I agree with the most, I agree with all of the advice that is given on from those people, from those guests, but the big one is, again, be insanely passionate about the problem you're trying to solve. The
Hmm.
solution will reveal itself to you. but don't flip it around.
Mhm.
Don't build a product thinking that there is a solution there for it or a problem that it's willing to solve, because in many cases it's probably not going to be the case at
Mhm.
all.
Mhm.
And you're at because you just didn't spend time actually thinking and talking to the people who deal with it, right? So that's what I would say. Be so passionate about the problem that the product will reveal itself to you, and that's just through talking to people. You have to go and talk to people. So don't keep it bottled up either, because you're worried that people are going to steal it. No one's going to steal your idea.
Mm.
And if they did, that means you couldn't execute, and you didn't have the vision to really build the thing that you thought you could build.
Mm.
And more importantly, it probably wasn't an idea that was too unique if somebody could easily replicate it overnight, at
Mhm.
least in that perspective. Like, you have to
Mhm.
be committed to why you're doing this, based on that problem and
Mhm.
who it's for. And without be connecting directly with those people who deal with it every day, then
Mhm.
you're putting yourself in a position where you're not going to build something that's going to matter. It's that for that community,
Mhm.
solving that problem that needs to be solved. And definitely they're not going to give you money for it either. So that's where I'd start. That'd be my first piece, is be
That's a great
obsessed with the
advice.
problem. Be obsessed with that problem.
Be obsessed with your problem and your customer.
Mhm.
Martin, if our audience listening want to follow you, want to support you, can you share with us where can they find you?
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I'm pretty easy to find. When you Google me, you can just Google my name right here, and then Founder Institute. I pop up. I'm pretty easy. You can follow me on Twitter and LinkedIn. Uh, Martin. I mean, RTIN MARTEEN on both those channels. And you can follow everything we're doing with Founder Institute by following us on those as well. Just find Founder Institute
Mhm.
online, and you can check us out on LinkedIn, check us out on Twitter. We have some sub channels for Texas as well,
Mhm.
under Founding Texas. But again, uh, I'm a pretty easy name to Google. So if they do want to find me, I'm not too hard to reach.
The one and only Martin. With that, really, thank you so much, Martin, for joining
Thank
us
you.
and share your story, share your journey. Wow, what impactful experience! And really, we truly appreciate your time. And thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in today. We hope you enjoy the show as much as I do, and I cannot wait to see you all next week. Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.